G'day. Max Verstappen has sold out the Nurburgring for the annual 24-hour race this weekend. Yes, Max Verstappen's entry in a Mercedes has seen the sold-out signs go up for the legendary Nürburgring 24 Hours race in Germany. The four-time F1 world champion is swapping his Red Bull for a Mercedes GT3 and taking on the Nordschleife in what promises to be the most widely watched 24 Hours race in history. Such is the Max effect. He's one of four drivers driving for Mercedes AMG Team Verstappen Racing. He'll be in the number 3 Mercedes AMG GT3 alongside Lucas Auer, Jules Gounod and Daniel Juncadella. Now, if they split the driving equally, Max will be doing the equivalent of 4 F1 races in one day. And while the longest track in F1 is Spa, around 7 kilometres and 20 corners, the Nurburgring has a staggering 170 corners over 25 kilometres, and many of those laps will be driven in complete darkness with no track lighting. It sounds crazy, but the motoring world will be all over this race. Of course, he's not the first F1 driver to drive the Nurburgring in a 24-hour race. Since the race began in 1970, more than 30 F1 drivers have had a crack at it. The likes of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Niki Lauda and Nelson Piquet come to mind. But Max is not a retired champion looking for a final thrill. He's also not a former F1 driver looking for a second career. He's still at the peak of his Formula One career. And he's choosing to spend a rare free weekend fighting through traffic at midnight in the Eiffel Forest. So what would Red Bull be thinking about all this? Well, for a start, I think they had little say in the matter. Max holds the power in the team, and if he wants to drive the 24-hour on and off F1 race weekend, he'll drive the 24 hours. And then he'll head to Montreal straight after for the 5th round of the F1 Championship. Yes, it's unheard of for a world champion to be driving such an event during the F1 season, and the fans know this. They've snapped up all the tickets. The sold-out signs are up. But given the track is 25 kilometres long, you'd think they could fit an unlimited number of spectators in. Well, that's not the main issue. It's the small roads that lead to and from the track. They fill up quickly. The organiser has actually told those without tickets, don't come, you won't get in. And they're imploring those fans with tickets to carpool to minimise the number of cars on those small roads. Camping sites, yep, they're sold out as well. But getting back to Max, he's entered the SP9 top class. Yes, with his Mercedes. And will Toto Wolff be flying in to give support? I'm going to say yes. Toto and AMG Mercedes pushed hard to change the dates of the preparation races for the Nürburgring 24 Hours just to make it work for Max. It's a dream pairing for Toto, who I think wants to see Max in a Mercedes at some point. So what can Max and the 500 or so other drivers expect over this coming weekend? Well, they don't call this the green hell for nothing. You can expect rain, fog, darkness, traffic, 160 other cars on track, and one of the most terrifying circuits on Earth. Of course, Max is used to racing 21 other cars on track this year, but that's on pristine circuits with defined racing lines in perfect visibility for most of the time. The Nürburgring 24 Hour is like 23 separate races all on the same track at the same time. And there are many different types of cars out on track, from full-blown GT3 monsters to GT4 cars, Porsche Cup machines, touring cars, BMW M240i's, and more. The race starts at 3 p.m. on Saturday. That's 2 p.m. in the UK, 11 p.m. in Sydney, and 6 a.m. in LA. But where can you watch it live? It'll stream on Red Bull TV, and I'll put a link in the description below. Now, I've just been through the starting lineup to see if I can recognise any of the other drivers. Only one name stood out to me, and that was Timo Glock. But imagine if you're a privateer, perhaps in your VW Golf GTI TCR, you can say you've raced against the best in the world. Well, not really raced. Pulled over might be a better term. But nonetheless, you will have shared a section of track with one of the world's great F1 drivers. Last year, 280,000 people attended this race. They're expecting more than that this year. And given the track is just a 4-hour drive from Amsterdam, you're going to expect a huge number of Max Verstappen fans in attendance. Of course, in F1, we mainly race in warm conditions. Sometimes there's rain, but it's not a lot of it. So what is the forecast saying for the Nürburgring race? Temperatures from 3 to 12 degrees, rain on the first 2 days, Bit of sun on Saturday and cloudy on Sunday. Those are markedly different conditions from what you'd expect in F1, particularly the overnight stints getting down to 2 and 3 degrees. But perhaps that adds to the allure of this race for someone like Max. Certainly the title sponsor Ravenol must be rubbing their hands with joy. So many articles and stories and videos like this one mentioning their name. They've paid no more, but the Max effect has absolutely sent their exposure through the roof. Back to Max, he stated that it all started in the simulator.
I've done thousands of laps. I've competed on multiple 24-hour races as well around here in the sim world.
Getting to know the track wasn't the issue though.
Just understanding the new curbs or like grip levels of new tarmac, because every year new tarmac is laid in certain places. And then of course understanding like the real car with the G-forces and the compressions and stuff like that. But yeah, for sure the sim racing helped a lot to immediately be on pace, let's say like that.
But Max won't be going in cold to the Nurburgring for this race. He competed there earlier this year in a different category, but was disqualified post-race due to a technical infringement. So is Max's team favourite? I don't think so. Hard to find a betting market on it though. My understanding the favourites are Manfred Porsche in their 911, the number 77 Schubert BMW and the number 1 Rowe BMW will also be up there. It's worth noting too that this type of racing is far more dangerous than Formula One. For a start, you have different tarmac conditions. There are a few runoff areas. The track's much tighter than a normal F1 circuit. And because it's such a long track, the chance of it being dry in one section and wet in another are high, and that can play havoc with less experienced drivers, of which there are a number of them, amateurs indeed. They can be unpredictable and certainly increase the likelihood of crashes. During the 24 hours, it's not uncommon for there to be 90 crashes, with many cars failing to finish. In fact, earlier this year in one of the qualifying events for the race, 66-year-old driver Juha Mietonen died in a serious incident on track involving 7 cars. Max stated, "I'm aware that I can have a bad crash there, but I'm not afraid. I like it actually. It gives me a smile on my face. Every time I jump out of the car, I'm happy. That's also what I'm after, to be honest, to have fun. I know it's a dangerous track, but I'm happy to take that risk." And that says a lot about Max. He's now focused on the enjoyment part of racing, and this type of event is far from what F1 is at the moment. This is flat-out racing. There's no having to ease off to regenerate power. It's not as corporate as F1, of course. It's more grassroots, and being in the car for 6 hours over a 24-hour period holds great appeal for someone like Max. Come Saturday, May 16, will you be watching the start of the Nürburgring 24 hours? I will be. I can't wait. And I'm not typically the sort of person who would watch that sort of event. But again, that's the Max factor. His pulling power is huge, and the event organiser would be absolutely over the moon to have Max and his team on the grid this weekend. Let's go back to the sold-out ticket situation. Last week, you could have picked up a 4-day pass for €74. But alas, the sold-out sign has gone up on that. But I should clarify something. At the time of recording this video, there are still tickets available for Thursday, Friday and Sunday. But anything involving Saturday is sold out. But Saturday is the most exciting part of the 24 hours. Yes, you get to see the start and you get to see them going into Saturday night, where anything could happen on track. Of course, crowning the winner is a highlight, and I'm sure many fans will be there to witness that, but just as many leave early to beat the traffic. And if you're wondering how qualifying works, it's a tricky affair, one I'm not even sure I understand, and I've spent some time looking at the criteria. But essentially it's a multi-part process, and prior to the main race weekend, there were races termed 24 hours of Nürburgring qualifiers held, where competitors could have scored a potential pass into top qualifying 3. For most, though, qualifying begins on Thursday. There are 2 sessions. Then on Friday, there are a further 4 sessions. And is this just a one-off event for Max Verstappen? No, it's something he wants to do every single year, with one car or multiple cars. And his goal? Winning, of course. And that's something Max does well. If you're lucky enough to be going along, I envy you. I don't envy the not having any sleep overnight, but still, it would be a marvellous thing to be at the event. Before I go, people, could you please hit the like button, and for those unsubscribed, hit this one to ensure you get all my future videos. And for a whole lot of extra F1 content, check this out, along with merchandise and stuff at kimelman.com. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Okay, here we go.